And one of those places has been grabbing a lot of headlines in the last couple of years. Back in January 2023, the Swedish state-owned mining company LKAB said it had discovered Europe's largest deposit of rare earth metals in the Kiruna area in Sweden's far north. To learn more about this and how things have developed since the discovery was announced, we spoke to Darren Wilson. He's LKAB's Senior Vice President of Special Products, which includes rare earths.
If we start to accept as societies that we do need mining, we have a challenge in Europe in recognising that after decades of globalisation and moving manufacturing of things and also critical supply chains away from Europe, we perhaps do need to take greater responsibility.
Back in 2018, LKAB began looking into the possibility of mining for rare earths as part of its existing mining operations. Since the breakthrough in 2023, Wilson says the goal has been to come up with a plan to make the extraction of rare earths as environmentally sustainable and economically viable as possible.
We know the chemistry works, but then you've got to know that you can do it with the right operating costs and it's economically viable.
The company is confident that the deposits are there and that it has the know-how to get them out in a way that makes economic sense. But Julie Klinger, the rare earths expert we spoke to, is always cautious about these types of things.
One thing that I've noticed is that every headline about a rare earth deposit or discovery seems to be announcing the world's largest known deposit, right? Valued in, if not billions, then in the trillions of dollars.
She says that when the deposits are indeed all that they're cracked up to be, the key is to develop an entire supply chain, as China has done. And that's what makes the whole operation so daunting.
There's this perennial air of urgency and emergency that surrounds rare earth elements, which is why I think they continue to be called rare, even though they're not. There's this kind of imaginary that, well, if we can just get these things out of the ground, then the supply chain will take care of itself. But in fact, what's really needed is sustained, coordinated investment in supply chain development.
LKAB is well aware of that challenge. It has already invested in a Norwegian company to streamline a possible future processing operation. But Darren Wilson says it will take a lot of time and patience.
It's complex in developing these supply chains. And of course, if we want to take control of a supply chain, you have to have yourself or with partners have every stage of that. So we've got to build a complete European value chain to make this work.
The country that has mastered that complex supply chain is obviously China. And those we spoke to were united in their admiration for how the country has conquered the market and gained a strategic upper hand as a result.
If you look back at globalization from the late 80s and early 90s, you have to say China has done a superb job. They very systematically, in full sight, in encouragement of the West, really, because we've been wanting to not do these things that we used to do in manufacturing and mining. And China has a very detailed plan down to all elements of components and where they're made.
China's dominance of the rare earth supply chain comes from sustained multi-decade investments in building industrial capacity, in funding the requisite research and development, and also using investments in R&D and rare earth science as a kind of international collaboration tool as well, in order to send China's experts to different parts of the world. The fact that China has significantly dominated the rare earth space really shouldn't come as any surprise.
And that brings us to the central question. Can Europe realistically hope to catch up with China on rare earths? Or is it doomed to always play the game according to Beijing's rules? Tradium's Matthias Ruth is skeptical.
Ist jetzt natürlich nur meine persönliche Meinung, aber ich würde diese Frage mit einem klaren Nein beantworten.
He once sat on the board of the company that explored for rare earths in Storkvitz, and he thinks that project embodies the stark reality of the challenge.
Letzten Endes ist es halt auch nicht gerade sehr trivial, seltene Erden zu produzieren. Und da hat natürlich China einen Vorsprung, den zumindest jetzt unsere Generation, sage ich mal, wie gesagt, meine persönliche Einschätzung nur, aber nicht aufholen kann.
But there is also the belief that as the century goes on, the strategic interests of European governments will trump all other concerns.
Ich glaube nicht, dass es vorbei ist.